is Aaron Rhodes, and you're listening to the Shuttlecock podcast, sponsored by the Vinyl Underground at Seventh Heaven, offering new and used vinyl at 76 and Troost in Kansas City, Missouri. This week on the show, we have Anna, aka Riley the musician. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Amazing.
It's a good vibe. I'm happy to be here.
No, yeah. Okay, so for anyone who's not familiar, I've done a small bit of writing about your music. You've appeared in The Pitch. Allison Harris wrote a very nice piece about your new album. But for those who don't know, you are originally from the Lee Summit area.
Yeah, I am, and I'm still based out of here.
But you did, before we started recording, you just mentioned spending time in Florida. Did you live there at some point, or do you just visit a lot?
Oh no, I just go to Florida a lot.
You have like family out there or something?
It's good to get away. My family loves Florida. They're obsessed with this. So they're like, let's go to Florida, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to Florida. Can't hate it.
Yeah, no, I can't complain. So I guess a good portion of this interview will be discussing different locations and their meaning to you, as I'm sure you might have guessed after naming your new album Montana.
Yeah.
But yeah, you talked about in your pitch interview with Allison how Lee Summit hasn't always felt like a very welcoming place for you as a trans woman, and just like kind of in general. So like, have you been able to find any community within Lee Summit, like with other artists, like growing up, or has it kind of had to come through travel or being on the internet or going to the city or something?
Yeah, I think it's just one of the parts of like living in like the American Midwest is that you're gonna have a lot of people that just aren't progressive, and like don't really share the same values as you. So I mean, for me, for the most part, it's gotten better. You surround yourself with friend groups and like people your age, and normally, hopefully, they align with you in a way where they at least think like, oh wow, like, I respect you being trans, and like that's like important. But a lot of it for me is just like going downtown, going to KC, lots of friends up there. The more closer you get to downtown, the more progressive and like the more welcome I feel, being a part of that community. But yeah, honestly, the internet is like the number one thing. Like,
Hi, hey there, Jenna. Doing the podcast. Don't worry about it. Roommate's here.
you're all good.
No, yeah, but I asked that partially because you have been like one of your frequent collaborators named Iker, is that right?
Mhm.
Is he from Lee Summit also, or is that someone you've met through like another? Because he's from the Kansas City area, right?
Yeah, he's from Lee Summit as well. He lives really close to me. I went to school with him. That's how I know him. And we both were like in a music school together, like in a music class. And so we just stayed in touch. And like he was like, I really want to do this music thing. And I was like, that's cool. I do it too. And I have a studio. You should come over. So yeah, no, he's really, really close friend, super supportive. He played shows with me over in Kansas, and then we played one up in Chicago recently. So super, super great guy to have around. His energy is just so much fun.
Oh, it's awesome. How long have you guys known each other? Like since high school, since before that, or?
Yeah, since I was about like 17. So we didn't really start making music until the last like 2 years together, 2 or 3. So it's just one of those things you start making music with somebody and something clicks, and then you're like, oh, like we should do this all the time, so very good energy.
Yeah, no, and so he appears on Montana as well, and you guys had a collaborative EP. I think I might have mentioned that. So you grew up playing piano a bit, and then as a teenager, you started to do like DJ mixes online, and like you're
Yeah.
very into like EDM at that time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I was like 13 or 14, all I listened to was like Skrillex, Porter Robinson, the whole shebang. But around the time I was like 15, getting started in high school and all of that, I discovered PC music. So like AG Cook, Sophie, all of that, like proto hyperpop, whatever you want to call it, like early internet stuff. And it's like that really just like piqued my interest. I was like, wow, I want to do this,
Yeah. And I assume the stuff you were learning on the piano as a kid wasn't very like you didn't really connect with. I'm guessing you were playing like some classical stuff, some I don't know,
Absolutely.
kind of
Doing
the
Christmas,
standards.
like, yeah. uh, Christmas time is here, things like that. But honestly, for me, like, I would do these lessons just to get like finger positions down and like practicality, because you get better at piano.
Mm,
But I remember the first song I did on my own was like "1,000 Miles" by Vanessa Carlton.
nice.
I was like, I was like, I want to do the da, 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 da. So got that down, and yeah, ever since I just love piano, and it connects so well with like production.
Yeah.
It's so essential, like everything in a studio has a keyboard on it, so it makes my life a lot easier. um, so it just was kind of hand in hand.
Was the piano something your parents encouraged you to do, or like did you get lessons or something, or was it through school or?
It was more so just like I loved music and I
Mm,
loved listening to music, and they were like, "Well, this is like an extracurricular thing to do." And so, yeah, I mean, my family's not musical at all. I'm like the first musician out of my entire extended family, so it's like really strange spot to be in.
yeah.
But they were just like, you know what, we love you. You should just go for it. So
Yeah, no, it's funny because a lot of people like I guess their experience with piano is like, yeah, I took lessons as a kid, I hated it, I quit as soon as I could, and then like
yeah.
5 years later, I was like, oh, maybe I do want to make music, maybe that'll be helpful. But it is cool that I guess maybe you're in the minority, I guess at least within like indie music and stuff like that actually like seeked out the piano and like wanted to do that as a kid.
Oh yeah. I mean, I understand like learning it because I took like traditional lessons where we,
Yep.
like I said, we would do like Christmas songs and things like that. And like I didn't have fun. I was like a kid, like it was just like something I had to do. But I wanted to get better. So I was like, if I make it through this, I can be really good at piano in like 2 years, and that was like the entire like position. Like I want to be like able to write my own songs and things like that. So there was like a goal set in mind. But yeah, learning anything in school, it can really discourage the process of like how it's fun.
Yeah.
I like just recently got it back into reading again because of school, you're reading all these books you don't care about, and like you hate it, you learn to hate it. And then like I get out and now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of cool when I
Yeah.
read what I want.
Yeah. What have your literary selections been lately? What's exciting to you to read?
I'm just starting, but I'm getting into like poetry,
Mm,
short stories, things like that. Just because my brain is so used to like not reading long things, not watching
yeah.
long movies. I love short compiled things. So if I can just do it in small bursts, it's like awesome.
Yeah. And oh man, I was going somewhere with piano things. Shit.
You're good. It
Uh,
happens.
it'll come to me. It might not.
It's all good. Don't even
Yeah,
worry
no.
about it.
Um, so yeah, you're beginning to write songs as like, and it kind of more in your late teens is when you started making your own music for the first time.
For the most part, I would have
Oh,
fun in FL, but it wasn't like I would like write something until I was about like 17, 18.
mm, okay, no, and I know where I was about to go there. It was you said like explicitly in another interview, and I think your Ringtone Mag interview, that you feel like you were born to be an entertainer, and like it is funny that uh none of your family has like experience with music, considering that's something like you feel so strongly about like for so long.
Yeah.
Like has it, like you say, you have like a good friend group that's very supportive of you, and obviously like other artists you've worked with, but like has it taken your family time to accept that you want to pursue the arts?
Um, I think naturally any family is gonna be like, wow, like this is a weird decision, but you do you.
Yeah,
You know, they're gonna be very weary. But I started at like 17, and now that they can see like things actually being paid off, I think they're like, wow, like you could actually, you know, you're taking this somewhere. And so that's important. But my parents, like, they're the most supportive. I am so lucky. You know, they're very down to earth. I didn't grow up in an environment that was like very like we didn't have a lot of money. You know, I was on like food stamps for 4 years, and like we were just making ends meet paycheck to paycheck. And so my parents, you know, were so scared for me. They were like, I want you to like be able to do something with your
yeah,
life. But once they started seeing things come around, I think it started to make sense. And like I said, they were so happy for me. Like once they heard me making music, they were like, this kid, you know, this is cool. And so yeah, I'm just so blessed to have them. They're so great.
yeah, that's awesome. And so as far as I know, your first release was in 2018. It was called Teenage Heartthrob.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that was mini me.
yeah. So you, I don't know if this is what you meant by these tweets, but like you posted, I think last year, I was reading back, and you kind of made a like a thread that was like one through three, like your three, like it listed Teenage Heartthrob, Art is Dead, and Anna Kennedy, your three previous projects before Montana. And
Yeah,
so do you consider those three like something of a trilogy?
in a way. Um, You know, when I look back at my discography, it's really difficult, I think, for most people to be like, oh, I loved like my first project, you know,
Yeah.
as like an artist, because it's like I've been able to see like, oh, I'm like making this now and I wasn't able to back then. But yeah, I think definitely I see it as like a trilogy because Montana is sort of just like a breaking point of stepping into something completely new because I was still, you know, I was still in boy mode. I was still in the same mindset. I was writing the same things for the most part. And then like Montana is a totally different change of tone, pace. So
Oh yeah, and so the last EP before Montana was called Anna Kennedy, and you've since decided to make that your part of your full name.
yeah.
So, and you said it was initially the name of the EP was inspired by your interest in like 60s culture and John F. Kennedy, and you wanted to just
Yeah.
allude to that. Did you know at the time that that was like a name you might want to take on, or was that fully like after the fact?
Totally after. It's one of those things where it's subconscious. You're like, I like this name.
Yeah.
And then it's like that's the type of stuff I take in and the art I take in and like the culture I take in is from like that era.
Mm.
So it's like, geez, like it just worked out. And I was like, I like the ring to it and I love the name. Like it literally suits me so well. So it's like, I'm so sorry. 1 second.
No, you're good.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. We're both
My
having
dog started making noise.
no, we're both having intrusive roommates. No,
No,
it's
for
fine.
I think yeah, the entire project of like Anna Kennedy super at the time I had no idea. And then it
Mm.
was like this rings to it. My friends were like, this rings to it too. This reminds me of you. So
No, it's awesome. Uh, and it is funny though, because like a lot of people, uh, when it like I know plenty of people that are very interested in like 60s culture, like like mainly the music side of it, just like the Beatles and like garage rock and psych rock and that kind of stuff, and just classic rock in general. But you, like, the music you make is very different from that, like, or so was that interest mostly from like a a historical kind of like is it from like a history nerd side that you had that interest, or like what where'd
Yeah,
they come from?
um, a lot of it, you know, I grew up loving the Beatles. Nowadays it's like, you know, they're the Beatles, like everybody knows them. But for me, it was like a lot of the pop culture. I loved like the aesthetic. Visually, I love like Americana aesthetic, drive-in theaters, you know, little mom and pop shops. I think they're fantastic. So, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that era. But the thing that really pushed me over was indie movies that would represent that aesthetic from that era, or like movies in general out of that era. I love, love, love Alfred Hitchcock films. Like they're
Nice.
my favorite thing. Yeah, so like I'd watch a lot of those, and it's really cool to pull aesthetic and interest in something from something that isn't musical, and then like incorporate that somehow, you
Yeah.
know, because you can really pull inspiration from anywhere.
Yeah. No, I watched North by Northwest for the first time last year. I did kind of like a like before live music was back, I was doing a lot of like just catching up on movies I had never seen, like just kind of the classics, and that was a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
fun. I need to watch the rest of his filmography, but
Oh yeah.
I no,
So
I
good.
it's funny. I always have kind of like noticed that a lot of uh musical projects that I enjoy are like they do pull like aesthetic elements from movies, and like
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know, like see, I don't think there aren't people that like come to me asking for like music advice like when they're you know songwriting or whatever, but like I have like encouraged people before, like they've been like, oh, I don't know what to like, you know, I'm not feeling very inspired. I'm like, I feel like you should, I've told people like I feel like you should watch some like older movies, like pick
Oh yeah.
like a genre or a niche or a director, and like see what kind of imagery you can like come up with that isn't like in the front of your mind like on a day-to-day basis, because I feel like, you know, through like watching films about like exotic places and
Oh yeah.
different eras, like that can kind of get your mind jogging.
Oh, absolutely. I I'm such a geek for small little indie movies that like nobody has ever heard of, and just like watching them, even though they're not very good. Like they'll have like 20 or 30 on like Letterboxd or Rotten Tomatoes, and then it's like I enjoyed it. It's something about it. It has a charm to it. And so yeah, I mean, movies really are everything, because when you think about it, you're not just music, you're a package. So if it doesn't go hand in hand, like all of my favorite artists always have eras and packages and, you know, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So
Has because you've had a hand in like you have a few music videos, and you've, if not directed them, like, you know, at least had some kind of directorial uh say in how they look and everything. So what does any of your music video stuff come from film inspirations as well, or is that kind of its own world, and where do you like
oh
to
yeah.
pull from for that?
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely comes from like indie movies. A lot of it is just like friends shooting something, and then in post edit we'll just go crazy and just like do as many like aesthetically pleasing things as possible. You know, for me, I love like I don't really know how to describe it honestly, but it's like the 2000s internet core stuff. Like for the Miss America video, we did a lot of that in that video, and for the 99 video, we did quite a bit of that. It's kind of like Tumblr core, internet core, whatever you want to call it from that era. But if you go earlier, like on a Kennedy, like Railroad or 19, it's definitely like I have like these old font faces, and like I throw a 35 millimeter film thing on it. And I'm like trying my best to replicate an era, but make it feel modern, you know? So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just like shooting film on an SLR, and then like try your best to make it fit into the world, because editing really is everything. I mean, as long as the shots are originally great, then you have freedom to edit.
Yeah. And I did really like just appreciate the simplicity of the 99 video. I love that song, that video.
Thank
And
you.
it basically is just you like kind of dancing around and like freaking out in a car and
Yeah,
uh
yep.
yeah and all and
Yeah. We just pulled over on the side of the road and I was like, we're shooting it here. We're just gonna shoot it in the car. And we did it on a really cold night. And yeah, I was like making the car shake and stuff like that. And it was just fun. It was
yeah
just like, I really like this song and I really want to make, I feel like the simpler a video you make, sometimes the easier it connects with people. It doesn't always have to be like glitz and glam, you know?
yeah everybody's riding in a car at some point, you know, listening to
Exactly.
their
Everybody can
tunes.
connect with that.
Was that filmed in near home, or was that on your Montana trip?
That was filmed near home. It felt
Yeah.
like Montana because, you know, but it was just like 10 minutes away in my car.
Mm.
So was the Miss America video. We shot that in my garage. So, but yeah, I mean, you can really just, like I said, editing is everything. Text effects are everything. Like, if you've got the world in your head, you can do it on the computer.
Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned the like how some Tumblr aesthetics were important to you. Like were you on Tumblr pretty heavy back in the day?
No, that's why it's
No.
so weird. I'm on it
Yeah.
now and I'm on like Pinterest and everything. I didn't have that phase. Like, I grew up with like, I listened to like the 1975 and like Tumblr core artists, Sky Ferreira, Lana Del Rey, but like I didn't really get into the aesthetic until recently,
Mm.
until like got into my early 20s. So it was like, this is my world, you know. I connect with this. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's coming back in a way, because it was quite some time ago that like the first 1975 album came out, you know,
Yeah.
and like I listen back to it now. I'm just like, this is so special.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You're
everything comes back after a certain amount of time.
yeah, no, and you're making up for lost time when you weren't on Tumblr, but want to field some of those aesthetics and yeah, no, like after a decade, like something does just kind of have like a legacy to it if it's been impactful enough. And like some of those artists you mentioned, like those are like many of them are still like releasing stuff that people really care about, but then they do have this kind
Yeah.
of like back catalog to look at. And like the stuff they were like that they became well established with is different than what they're making now. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look at a lot of the artists now from that era, and it's interesting to see like who survives. And like the best thing about it is like when I look back at something I liked as a kid, and I'm like, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, was this really good or was I just a kid?
Yeah.
You know? But a lot of it stays true to like, I really like it still. But yeah, a lot of the hot topic like era stuff feels a little redundant nowadays, but at the same time, it's like I really liked it as a kid, so who cares? Or like, I don't know. But yeah, a lot of those artists have changed their aesthetic completely. Like Lana Del Rey does all sorts of crazy things now, like you know. But it's like I like her earlier stuff, and that's what I connect with. Or like the 1975. I mean, I loved their last album, but like there's something about the first, you
Yeah.
know. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I need to like I was watching the it's funny. I bought like I didn't know exactly what to get my mom for Hanukkah because like I know my dad's music taste very well and he collects vinyl. So like I it's pretty easy to pick out a gift for him, but my mom is like a little more eclectic and like specific about the music she likes. So
Sure.
I just on a whim I got her Alana Del Rey CD for Hanukkah
Aw.
and the newest album.
Aw.
And I
Oh,
had Blue
yeah,
Banisters.
Blue Bannister. Yeah.
Yeah. And we watched like just because they didn't have a I was worried like my parents don't have a CD player set up right now, like and then I don't know if she even has one in her car or not. So I was like, oh shit, I hope I don't have to return this. But so
Yeah.
but I think they'll be able to play it on their Blu-ray. I think it'll be fine. But we were
Good.
watching just in the meantime, I was like, she wasn't super familiar with Lana, so we were watching some of her new music videos on YouTube, on the
Yeah.
TV, and then I went back and I hadn't watched the video games music video in a long time,
Mm,
and that was
yeah.
super interesting. And oh, there was another, uh I think it was maybe the summertime. There was some music video where it looked like I'd never seen it before. It was one of her older hits, but it was like
Yeah.
clearly like some of the shots were her like in her webcam, but then it was like intercut with like
Oh, there my AirPods.
paparazzi.
Jesus Christ. We're back.
Oh yeah. It was like intercut with like paparazzi footage and like old timey Hollywood stuff. I don't know if you know what video that is, but
I literally was just watching her old ones too.
yeah,
It was something off of Born to Die, off of that first. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think yeah, because she used like old Hollywood like stock movie footage, like
yeah,
royalty free or like just non-royalty free. And then she got to the webcam. You're right.
yeah,
I don't remember what song that was, but it's like she was so focused on aesthetic and it felt so Tumblr core.
yeah. No, and
But it holds up for me.
I
Yeah.
think it does too. Like, and now she's able to be like kind of like self-referential and meta in her newer songwriting, and like when before she was just like going straight ahead trying to capture these two aesthetics, like this like vintage Hollywood, but also this like Tumblr style aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it like I feel like she deserves some credit for that, and I think she
Oh yeah.
has kind of like blended that into her newer work in a more like not discreet but organic way, and but like it's kind of still like tongue in cheek, like she knows what she's doing when she like yeah, I don't know where I was trying to
No,
go with that.
no. You're totally correct. Like, um, yeah, no, it's definitely night and day from what she does now. I still love her new stuff. Like, it's really good. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think artists, when they first come out, have a lot of things going against them, like visually, musically. Like nobody knows who you are, so you kind of have to prove yourself, and you have like all of this encouragement to like make the best product ever of like who you are. And so when I hear people's earlier works, like it even holds true for like just trying to think like Kevin Abstract's MTV 1987 or whatever. It was like I love that project more than whatever he's doing now. But it's just like at the time, like I don't know. It just feels so much more personal. Um, Same for Lana. Same for like Sky Ferreira if she'd ever put out more music. you know, um, yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying.
no, yeah. So oh, something I noticed when I was looking at your Twitter recently was you when you were releasing the Anna Kennedy EP, you like had you posted like these liner notes, and it said part of like at the bottom, like part of the Great Falls, Montana legacy. So it was,
Yep.
and that was like June 2020-ish, I think. I didn't write
Yeah.
down the date, but like you already had this idea of going to Montana, or at least incorporating the state in your work. Where did that first
Yeah.
come from?
Oh, geez. I think the first thought, because like the first thought of me going to Montana had to have been either early 2020 or late 2019.
Mm,
I just really love the aesthetic of the state, but it didn't really. I knew I wanted to go there someday, kind of thing, but it wasn't like sure when. And so, yeah, when the pandemic came, I was like, well, let me just like throw a dart at a map on Montana and like see where it lands. And it just happened to be Great Falls. And I was like, oh, this goes all the way down to, Kansas City with the Missouri River. This is perfect. Like I was like, this could be really it. But yeah, I mean, it was like the precursor, because even though I wasn't sure about my name, I wasn't sure about what kind of music I'd be making now. I wasn't sure when I go to Montana. It was like, I really want this to be like a precursor for what's to come because I was already thinking about this a while ago. I think as an artist, you're always planning ahead sometimes and too far ahead. You're like, I want to do this afterwards and I want to do this.
Yeah.
So it kind of was always there that I was going to go to this place. I just, when was I going to go?
Yeah.
That's the big question.
Was part of the thing that drew you in, was it like the outdoor element of the state, like the kind of the
Oh, yeah.
woods and that kind of thing?
Um, yeah, it was just like getting away, which
Mm.
was the perfect excuse for like, with COVID and everything to like be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, but before that, yeah, I'm such a small town person. I love small towns and I love rural, like not the people, but the aesthetic, if that makes sense. I love little small shops, like I said. And so Montana is like the perfect spot. I've never felt like I was in the middle of nowhere until I went there because I've always been here and I've always been in major cities. So driving was like, holy cow, like I could get lost out here and people wouldn't know for days. But there's also kind of like a love for that where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm just on my own, like.
Yeah, you're in your own indie film there.
Exactly.
You're discovering a new location, and you're doing some self-discovery, and you're tying it all together.
Exactly. And so, yeah, it was really just like a not only like a music process, but like a healing process of just like self-discovery and like finding out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, like, and it all just came together. I don't really know. It it felt like I went on the trip as a different person and I came back another,
Yeah.
even though it was short. Like it was like I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. Like
Yeah.
I'm happy doing this. So
Is I don't know, this is kind of a weird question, but is there anything that you attribute that feeling to? Like do you feel like it was like a fateful thing, or
oh
like, I don't know, like, I don't know, because
no, that's
you're
not weird at
saying like
all.
you kind of randomly almost picked this location, but it became like such a impactful and like kind of a key moment
Yeah.
for your art and you as a
um
person.
there is a bit of like fate played. I mean, if you believe in that at all, but it's like the fact that I was just trying to find a random location and it's the place that connects all the way to Kansas City
Yeah.
or by a river, it's like, that makes you think.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not like, oh, this was all a plan, you know. But at the same time, you can't help but think it. But I think it was just right place, right time, right motive, right headspace, and um, yeah, I mean, so many things happen in your personal life. Like every single year, so much can change. So it was just like, you know what? We're in a pandemic. I can just do whatever I want. Like it doesn't matter. Like I can do what makes me happy, and then they can when we're out of it, whenever they can see me again, and I'll just be a totally new person. So
And perhaps if you were Kanye West, you would attribute that to God instead of like a fate,
yeah, being in
um
Wyoming,
being in
I
Wyoming.
actually drove through where his property was on my trip. It was
Yeah.
cool, but it's Kanye, so
Was
what can
that
you say?
was his Wyoming moment at all inspirational to you, or was that just kind of a happy coincidence?
It's like it's 50-50 because
Yeah.
I feel like it was where it's like, oh, I went to the middle of nowhere like Kanye, but at the same time, it's like two different total like ideologies, journeys as people and things like that. Like
Yeah.
I loved his music and I loved how cold those records sounded, like EA and all of that, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm really breaking down the lyrics of EA and I'm like taking this personally because some of
Yeah.
the stuff he says is like whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was really weird driving through and like being like this guy had like the same idea somehow at the same place. I don't know, it makes you feel like you're on the right track.
Yeah. And but some of Kanye's earlier work was a bit more influential to you, or like
Oh,
are
oh
you're a
yeah.
fan of his some of his earlier stuff?
Yeah, I mean, he's Kanye, he's
Yeah.
awesome. Like his earlier stuff's amazing. Late Registration and Graduation are my favorite records. Like I love lyricism, production, all of it. It's just you can't beat it. Like he's just the best at what he does. Or he used to be. I don't really know if it's like holds true with Jesus is King, but a lot of his older stuff is like, wow, like this is so special and so like he just was the best, and he didn't need to remind you. It was just the music spoke for itself. Like
Yeah.
so very inspiring production. I don't know if I take so much from it anymore now that I've kind of like grown into my own thing, but
Mm,
like I don't know. You can't help but like feel his confidence come off of him and be like,
yeah.
take something from that.
And it's funny, I like had always enjoyed like the singles from his first handful of albums, but the I wasn't like personally like a huge fan until Yeezus, and that is an album where he kind of, well, I guess he did some of that on 808s, but there was a lot of like cold, steely production on that album. So was
Oh
Yeezus
yeah.
at all important to you, despite you already being a
Oh
fan of
yeah.
Graduation and Late Registration?
Oh yeah. I mean, his discography is amazing. Like I think everything up to Jesus is King is like, and like even that album, like if you take away the lyrics, like the production's really good. Like, you know, it's not the best album, but it's not bad at all. It's better than a lot of albums. But yeah, Jesus is so like on site's amazing. Blood on the Leaves is amazing. Like it's just a great, great record. For something about 808s is really good. Um, I don't listen to it as much as I'd like to, but the song Streetlights off of that record is really, really special.
Mm.
It feels like he just was singing his little heart out. He doesn't do that very often. And you get to see a side of him that was like really special. It reminded me of Come to Life off of Donda. It's kind of like the first time I've really like connected with a record like that.
Mm. Yeah, no, I feel similarly about Love Lockdown. That's the one, like 808s is definitely the Kanye album I've listened to the least, and I feel like I need to spend more time with it, but that song always kind of hits me. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
just
mean,
the
I just love the sound of that album.
yeah,
And I think I was saying it earlier, like a lot of artists have eras, and like I think it really just comes down to like visually and musically what you love, because his music just does so many different things for different people.
yeah,
I think that's what makes him so great. Is like you can listen to one record and it'll be like totally different than like 808s or like Donda or whatever, and it's like, but that's somebody's favorite album, even though you know you
yeah.
don't like it. It's just it makes an
And
album for everybody.
you I remember you posted you're talking about Montana coming together, and some of the you kind of posted about some of your production decisions, like the instrumentation and stuff like that, and you mentioned like was it like analog synths or vintage synths like
Yeah,
that were kind
yeah.
of important for some of the album?
Oh yeah, for sure. Jupiter 8, the old Prophet 6. A lot of all of this is like VSTs, like they're remakes of it. But I actually got my first synth ever. It's right next to me. It's a remake of the Moog Model D. It's a Poly D. So I'm just like, I'm a nerd for this stuff. I love moving the knobs, and it has this specific tube sound to it, and it's like, oh, it feels so synth pop in '80s, and I don't know. Very special, and it's so crazy because like I learned how to use this synth on the computer by just clicking buttons, and now that I'm sitting in front of a real one, it's like I know what I know what to do to make. Oh, there went my AirPod again. I know what to do to make it sound cool.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, I think I'm back. Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, analog synths are such a huge part of that album and of that record.
Oh yeah. And uh so uh, also pertaining to Montana, there is that the interlude on there called "The Woods," and it's like it's you and a friend just having a conversation pretty much, and
Yeah.
you're talking about like hoping to see some animals on the trip, or and
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
did,
I recorded that on a cassette player. That was in right post Anna Kennedy. That was like right when I was like, I want to go to Montana during the pandemic. Um, so it was like, I don't know. I guess it was one of the first things we recorded for it.
Yeah,
And it was so personal. I just was like, it has to be on the record.
yeah,
And it's cute and it's small and it fits the feeling. But yeah, I mean, Montana, like animals are so cool. Like I saw tons of deer that, too close for comfort for the car, but very cool to see. I saw my first tumbleweed. That was really strange. I was like, oh my God, this is real. This isn't just like a Looney Tunes cartoon, you
yeah.
know? So, yeah, a lot of things you won't see anywhere else.
Yeah, no, so yeah, was there anything, I guess, I did want to ask, like, what was the trip like outside of the like recording sessions and the writing sessions? And then also, yeah, what was like the setup for like where you set up, where did you set up shop, and like what were
Oh,
the
yeah.
sessions kind of like, just in moment to moment?
Oh yeah. The trip itself, the entire like sessions were run out of an Airbnb we found kind of just outside of the city of Billings. Um, and so I had this big window with like the woods right in front of me, and I just set up shop there. I just put my computer, my mic, and like the monitors, and I was good. And I was like just writing things based off of what was around me. I remember I'd spent like hours and hours and hours just like getting ideas down because it wasn't so much about finishing the album. It was about like being there and getting the inspiration and starting these ideas and then taking them home and finishing them.
Mm,
Um, because if you get I needed the ideas. I needed to be somewhere that inspired me.
yeah.
So it did its job. The trip itself was super cool. Like never had been up north. Got to see all sorts of like I drove through Sturgis, if you know what that is, and
Yeah,
like yeah, and like for me it's like I'm not stopping here, but like I was like this is cool to see.
yeah,
Like when am I ever going to see this again? This is the place for all the motorcycle stuff happens. So it was really dope. Lots of shops, lots of aesthetics, lots of cowboy bars with like the huge the bull riding machines.
yeah,
I didn't want to go because COVID, but I do want to go back so I can do that. That'd be really cool.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, totally different world, and I can't say much about the people because, like, obviously COVID again. But it's hard because, like, even though I love the small town aesthetic and it's so personal to me, it's very easy. Like, I know most of these people probably don't share like beliefs with me, or like, some of them aren't like trans friendly in these states. They're completely red. So it's difficult on that end. But I think for the most part, like just being alone somewhere with nature is just so, I don't know, it re-energized me.
yeah. One idea that just popped into my head was maybe considering the cowboy bars and that element of the trip that you didn't get to engage with. Maybe a music video happens at the the bull riding bar, the PBR bar in Power and Light in Kansas City. Maybe
Oh, we
that's,
have one? I had no
oh yeah,
idea.
no, for sure. It's,
Oh my gosh.
if
You
you
have no
can
idea.
wade
I've been asking people.
if you can wade through the sea of like yuppies and weirdos, like you can find that bull riding machine, I think.
You said
And
it's
that'd
called
be,
what bar?
I think it's the PBR, like professional bull riding. I think they like PBR Big Sky, I think is what it's called.
Oh my gosh, I'm so looking that up after this. Thank you. Yeah, you
No,
have no
yeah.
idea. I've asked like 5 people here and they're like, I don't know. So awesome. Thank you.
Oh no, yeah. And oh man, I sidetracked myself again. I'm always doing
Oh, you're
this.
fine. Don't worry
Um,
about it.
oh yeah, no, and you did end up, you left a USB stick of demos from the album in Montana, and you left like the coordinates. Do you know if anyone has found it yet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They got it within the first month.
nice.
And then I put another one here in like South Kansas City a little bit ago. I threw it on social media. Really
Uh,
cool experiment. Cause it's like it's scary. It's like I think these people might leak my life's work, like you always have that. And like there is that risk. But thankfully there were demos and they were handpicked, and like I only had certain sections. It was just like a way for like, oh, this is like, really big fan wants to hear this early.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to connect that way. And you leave them a little note and a little photo, and I don't know, it's a way to connect during the pandemic without meeting them.
Yeah. Oh, and kind of, I was gonna ask this in tandem with my Kanye question, but you've also mentioned the importance of Childish Gambino's Because of the Internet to you. That's a favorite of yours.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. In addition to, like, I don't know. I think, like, I was listening back to Montana recently, and I noticed lots of like kind of parallels between Montana and Because the Internet. I think there's like the abrasive, like distorted, like beats that that are on like Crawl, like those are on like Iced Out, and I think maybe one or two other songs. And
Yeah.
then there's like the R&B pop of 3005, which is maybe a little bit on like 99 or
Oh
maybe
yeah.
another song or two. And then there's like the fun bounciness of like Worst Guys, which is again kind of throughout the album, like
Love that song.
yeah, no. And then there's all those glitchy little moments on Flight of the Navigator, even though it's not like really, it doesn't sound particularly electronic on that song. I don't know
Yeah.
what he used, like where those textures come from, like that kind of like flittering noise that
Yeah.
happens.
I
But
know what you're talking about. I
yeah,
think for me, yeah, that album is
and I think there is like
monumental.
a kind of like, is there not like a kind of like a distorted like electronic voice that happens on that song as well, like a
I
narration?
think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot of like subconscious things because my record has a narration throughout it.
yeah,
Because I remember I must have been like 16, 15. I was in the car and I had it on CD because I was still doing that. And I still do. I love CDs. But listening to that album, it was like the first album I heard that like told a story from front to back, if that
yeah,
makes sense. Like it was just like chapters and it was set up so interesting and like so many different flavors, but it all felt together. And so yeah, I mean that album, I owe so much to it. Such a He's such a great artist because no matter what you want out of him, he's always going to do the opposite and do exactly what you least expect. Like his last album was like literally just like the numbers or whatever.
yeah,
Like it didn't even have names on it. And like even though it's not my favorite, like I'm like, wow, I can appreciate this because he's trying something nobody's doing. And that's kind of what that album Because the Internet felt like. Same goes for like everything he does. He's just genius, very inspirational. But yeah, I think like the storyboard feeling of it and the way it held itself together moving through it was a huge inspiration for me on how to like have a record like that that would function.
yeah. No, I guess that is something like I haven't been the biggest fan of like his last release or two. Maybe I need to spend more time with it. My friend Ryan Jenga, who I work on videos with, he is always telling me I need to listen to the most recent album more. So maybe I owe it to him to do that. But if you have to give Donald Glover credit for zagging when you expect him to zig, so
Yeah.
shout out to him for
Oh
that.
yeah. Um he's just yeah, all of his projects are just so special in that way. But again, like I agree. I wasn't a huge fan of his last record. It just even though it was like it didn't have my favorite music, but I could at least see like what he was trying to do. If that
Yeah,
makes sense, like I was like, oh, like this is an interesting idea. Nobody's doing anything like that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I remember it more because of that.
yeah. And so was the narration on Montana something that was kind of, you thought about it early on, or did that come when you were kind of like retouching it and working on it afterwards?
Early on, I had the narration on one of the songs,
Mm,
and then I listened to the album together, and I was like, this would be so much better if it like told some sort of story throughout it,
yep,
not just on beginning and end. So I tried to touch it up and do more. But a lot of it is just like I don't know. I don't know if it came from a specific place of like inspiration because I can't think of a lot of albums with that type of narration throughout it.
yep,
I just wanted it to feel more like a movie, I guess, in a way, like a journey,
Yeah,
because I don't expect it to be an album that like people listen to all the time. I want it to be an album that like people listen to on special occasions, and like I feel like it's an album you have to like listen through from front to back, even though it's like 35 minutes, 40
yeah.
minutes, something like that. It's like I feel like that is what I wanted to do. Instead of just making an album you could just like put on shuffle.
Oh yeah, shit. There was that news like item last week where Adele got Spotify to like disable the auto, like when you hit play on an album,
Yeah,
it doesn't shuffle it now. Like
that was so crazy, right?
yeah, no, and it made me curious like why that was the default in the first place. I yeah,
Yeah,
because
right.
I am an album guy too. Like I like listening to stuff front to back at least the first time I listen to it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So much
So,
better experience. I think I think Spotify had it that way for the free users, so there'd be an incentive to upgrade, but I'm not sure.
okay.
But I'm glad it's better now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's maybe I haven't listened to the new Adele yet. Maybe she'll
Me
surprise
neither.
me
Yeah.
and turn me a fan with this one. But if anything, shout out to Adele for that. Uh, keeping
Big
the
shout.
album a sacred thing in the year 2021. Um, but yeah, so uh, I think this goes back to I read all of your tweets about Montana and Anna Kennedy. I in my research, and
Uh-huh.
you spoke of, I think like in one of the liner notes for the EP, you mentioned like you reworked the entire EP like 7 times or something. Is that right?
For Anna Kennedy?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so what was that process like? Like what made you want to like yeah, scrap it and like rework so much?
I'm so picky about like what I present, if that makes sense. Um, so when I session for making an album or a project, it's like I can crank out like I probably have like 50, 60 demos. Like some of them don't go anywhere, some of them do on my laptop. And it's like you just store these and store these and um you're like, oh, I think this will work on the track list at the beginning, and then you get halfway through, you're like, I think it'd work over here instead, and then you're at the end, you're like, this is not on the album. you know
Yeah.
it can change so rapidly what you want it to be and like what you want the sound to be and where you want it to head. But yeah, there's a ton of different versions of Anna Kennedy out there with like additional songs. A lot of them I just like put on the record. I made like a vinyl record of Anna Kennedy and I put like the bonus song on there that didn't make it, stuff like that. But yeah, for me, I just wanted to make something small that people could take in bite size, but it was just like my best work at the time.
Mm.
Same goes for Montana. Like so many demos were made for that album that just totally just sitting there still. And it's like maybe one day, but yeah, it's just a lot of just presenting your best and like presenting what you want to do. Like I could put out an album of like 25 songs, but it's like, do I want to? I'd rather just like show, my best work to the class. Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Was there as much like reworking on Montana as there was on Kennedy or
Yeah, before I went to Montana, I had a totally different idea of how the record would sound and like what songs I had on it. And then
did
I
you
got
mention like you
back.
wanted more guitars on it originally?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna make it like an Americana, like super infused. And like there's still some of that, like Hometown Hero and Highway 65 have quite a bit of that.
Mm.
But the more I went on, the more I fell in love with like synth pop and like how that kind of represented the coldness of winter, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah.
kind of went
You're
in
in the
that
wilderness.
direction. Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels mysterious. Um, but yeah, I'm such a, and I think everybody says they're a perfectionist, but I kind of just take it to a new place where I'm just like, I'm so excited about this song, and then a month later, I'm like, we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Like it can change. So
Oh, I'm blanking on the name for it. Do you also yeah, are you also do you have synesthesia?
Oh, I wish. Seems like a really cool condition to have.
Yeah, no, lots of fun to talk about in interviews. It makes you so like creative and eclectic and cool.
Oh yeah, I have some friends who have it because I feel like if you have it, you kind of get pulled into music a little more.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a really cool. Like I don't quite understand it because obviously I don't have it. How are you gonna
yeah.
understand something you don't? But I try to, and I think that's what matters. But yeah, I wonder what the colors are that people see
Yeah,
when they
no,
hear.
I
Yeah.
can only imagine. Um, yeah, okay, yeah. If anyone listening to this has synesthesia and has listened to Montana, please tweet us the colors that every song makes you think of. I need to know. I
Yes,
think we
please.
would both be interested to know.
It'd be
So just
awesome.
hop in the comments, like and subscribe. No, yeah. So I think you had there was a moment earlier this year where you had said the album is complete. You're ready to release it. You had a release date. It was like in the spring or summer, and
Oh yeah.
then in June you signed with Snafu Records, and
Yeah.
the date was pushed to November. What was that whole like what was the signing process like? I read their website and they said they have like proprietary algorithms that find
Oh
like
yeah. It's so
undervalued
cool.
artists and stuff. Yeah,
It's so cool.
did they find you with the algorithm?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I was like, this is like so weird because
yeah,
I've gotten like offers before in like A&Rs being like, oh, we really like your music. And these people are like, we got a robot that likes your music. And I'm just like, okay. So I hop on a call with them and they're really, really down to earth people, super in it for the music. I just was like, holy cow, this might be perfect storm. And it was so close to when I was about to put out Montana. Um, so it was a bummer that I had to push it back. But kind of was a blessing at the same time. I got to add Tell Your Mother to the track list. I had more time to like prepare mentally
yeah,
for an album of that big of mine to come out. So it was like, it worked out in a way, even though it sucked waiting for it. Cause like, it feels like my baby's done. My baby's ready to
yeah,
go out to the world. I want to move on to the next thing. But at the same time, you know,
yeah,
sometimes you don't get it your way, and that's
yeah.
okay. But I'm just thankful that it eventually came out, and now I'm like able to have people actually listen to it. That's what matters.
Yeah, no, and it seems like it's had a great response so far. The numbers are very very solid, and I don't know, like I was reading around on the label's website too, and there are lots of very kind of interesting, funny like technological elements of the label. Like that's kind of their
Yeah,
selling point is they have the algorithm. Um they have some kind of app where their artists can collaborate with songwriters, and is that something you've used at all, or
I
I don't know?
have not used the app. I've pretty much done like everything else. It's so, how do I put it? I'm not sure if you're familiar with like PC music out of the
Hmm?
UK, like that's like I love that growing up, and it was so weird, and it was a small label, and it felt indie,
Yeah,
and I get the same feeling from them. And that's why I was like, this kind of clicks. It's like this is so weird and like eclectic and like different. And I was like, well, maybe this is where I want to be.
yeah,
And I
no,
feel like
and
you get more interesting results that way.
yeah, and I mean, it's hard to tell from the exterior, but like the website talks a lot about like letting the artists like feel like they're still in an independent environment, and
Yeah.
they said they want to make things transparent, like, and just fund projects, and
Oh
like
yeah.
they and let artists keep some of, if not all of, their masters and stuff like that.
It's um it's different
Yeah,
because there's a lot of stigma for labels, and I totally get it. Labels they suck sometimes. Like they're very bad news. You get a bad deal and you're stuck with it.
yeah,
But with them it was like, we just want to sign you on for this project. Here's a really fair deal. it's only a one-time thing, and then if you want to extend it, we'll extend it. And it was like, it felt so independent that way. And they do like checkup calls every couple of weeks and like try to get, your assets together to pitch it to people and stuff like that. So they're working as a label for you, but they're also giving you like the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yep.
Because I feel like if I was on a bigger label, and they'd be like, oh, you got to be on TikTok, like 5 TikToks a day, like, and like, even though that's like, I love TikTok, it's so much fun. It's like, it's not who I am, I'm not like that. I don't want to do that all day. I want to make music, and like, it works out. It just was a good fit, and yeah, they're very understanding, very easygoing, and I get that feeling a lot with smaller labels. There's something about it that feels more welcoming. The smaller amount of people you have, the more it's easier to kind of feel like you have a connection with them at least.
Yeah. And the only other artist I recognized on the roster was Hit Boy. But he's
I was
had some giant
yeah.
songs, and I don't know. Are there any other artists on the label that you're familiar with or a fan of or have
Oh
been
yeah.
working at all with?
I'm a really big fan of an artist called Moika. She's super cool. It's like singer-songwriter pop stuff, and it's amazing. So really love her work. I've, you know, so much fun just like getting to know her and like working on things. But like, I think because it feels so independent, you don't know a lot of people on the label roster. It's more so the people who work at the label.
Yep.
Because it almost feels like you're in your own little camp in a way. But that door is always open. Like, I'm sure if I wanted to reach out to somebody, I could.
Yep. And
So,
so you mentioned being a fan of PC music, and that's how influential they've been to you. And you did get to perform at like a virtual event that they had. It was like a
oh, it was so
Halloween event.
crazy.
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, it was so cool. I remember being 14 and I listened to a Halloween mix that AG Cook did with all the PC music roster. And I was like, this is so, I want to do this one day. These are like so special. And then I got to do it. Like, I woke up one morning and I had like I was going through my email and it just said like Alex Cook. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is the man. And so I was like, what's up? He's like, oh, a friend of mine showed me your stuff. I think it'd be really cool if you played in the show. He was like, it's in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get my stuff together. It was like a 15-20 minute set. They have a really cool aesthetic because it's like they did it over Zoom. So you make the video, you make the audio, and then they play it back. And so everybody watches it in this giant Zoom call and they like premiere it. And so yeah, it's overwhelming to say the least to like notice so many of those faces just in the Zoom call with you all of a sudden listening to your thing that you made.
Yeah.
And it's like, like these are the people that like I look up to the most. Like, I wouldn't be in this if it wasn't for them. So
Yeah.
very heartwarming experience, very so easy to work with, so genuine. Just such a good vibe.
Oh, that's awesome. Were there any other PC music artists that you've like been in contact with, or at least that you saw watching your set there?
Yeah, Umru was there. He's awesome. He's so cool. I played he helped me get a show for Lava Palooza was what it was called. It was like the Open Pit Presents, and I played it with a girl named Riley. It was cute. And
That was
then
another virtual show.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It was really cool.
Was that on Zoom or was that like a Minecraft? I know people
It was a
like doing
Minecraft
the
thing.
Minecraft shows.
Yeah. But it was weird because it was I think it was 100 Gex who played. They were like the big act of the night. And like I was like, of course I'm gonna play. Like they're 100 Gex.
Yeah.
So super cool. I'm really close with that girl named Astra King who's on PC Music. They're so cool. Yeah, I mean, just like just the team is like amazing. They're doing it because they love to make weird art. And like it's like these people don't care about like getting really, really big. They just want to make what they want to make. And like sometimes it's the most polarizing stuff I've ever heard, but it's like there's a a quality to that just makes you like, wow, like I'm never gonna hear anything like this again.
Yeah.
So
Should I expect to see you at the Caroline show this Wednesday in Lawrence?
I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was there. I mean, I'll see if there's still tickets. I
Yeah.
totally forgot she was like even coming to KC, to be honest. I'm so bad with like keeping up with shows. But Caroline Polachek's so cool. I
Yeah.
think
She's awesome.
her record Bunny as a Writer just got picked #1 by like Billboard, like Song of the Year,
Oh,
which is
nice.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like holy cow. So
Oh yeah. And so yeah, you've done lots of like some of these virtual performances, but you mentioned uh re- last month you had a show in Chicago, and was that your first since Montana came out? Your first
oh yeah, that
IRL
was
show?
yeah, that was like the first like really just like a lot of the scene that follows my music is based out of Chicago. So going there, it was like I knew all these people in this room that I knew from the internet, and I didn't even know they were going to be there. You
Yeah.
know, it was like so cool. Performing live, it was really hard for me to perform live in like certain areas or certain concerts and venues because you get so worried about the crowd and whether or not they'll like it, and it gets in your head. But when I was there, it felt like these kids are here for me and they already like my stuff and I know that. So like what could I do to mess up? Not play music? Like of course I'm gonna play music. Like if I miss a lyric, so what? We keep going.
Yeah.
And like that got me through it. And that's what made it so much fun.
Yeah. It's a good
So
time. Good. Yeah.
exactly. Everybody's there to have a good time. And it's really easy to forget that when you're performing because it's like, I want to make sure this is the perfect set,
Yeah.
you know? But yeah, I was so blown away by like their venue. It was so much fun. People I got to meet. It was just really great.
Oh, that's great. And I think you mentioned it earlier, but you haven't done many Kansas City area performances yet. You like I think I remember you posting about there was one. Was it at like a Plex Pod or like some kind of like office space, event space? Or am I making that up?
I'm not
I might be
sure.
making that up.
I played a show this year in Kansas at a bar out there.
Okay. Yeah, what
It
was
was
that?
through the college. Geez, Manhattan, Kansas.
Oh, okay,
It
yeah.
was through that. Yeah, it's through there, but it was really, really good. I had
Yeah,
a good time
you did
there.
an interview with the K State radio station.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did. They were really good people. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely a music scene here, and I've connected with some of the people here, like Black Star Kids. Ty is so cool, and like Paris Williams is so cool.
yeah.
They're just the best out of KC. Like, just
And
they're so cool.
yeah, no, they rock.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully more opportunities come with like Kansas City shows, but like I'm not too pressed about it. Like I'm in such a niche of like a pop thing that like I gotta go to like Chicago or like LA or like New York and like do stuff there. And it's like, I don't know. It'll happen when it happens. At the right place, right time.
Yeah. And oh, I noticed that you and Paris both have music, like you've collaborated with this LA musician named called Name Change.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
He played guitar on a song on Hometown Hero
Yeah.
on
Yep.
Montana. Yeah. And then yeah, he has
Um,
a couple of tracks with Paris features and like a Paris remix or something. Yeah.
yeah. He's super cool. I met him a year or two ago, just through the internet, just through
Mm.
like mutual friends. And then he was like, "Oh shit, like you're from KC? I'm like working with people in the KC scene." And I was like, "Really? Who?" And he's like, "Oh, like Paris Williams." And I was like, "Wow." Small world.
Yeah.
He's from LA, I think.
Yeah.
Super great kid, super talented. I worked with him originally on a friend of mine's project. He was tracking guitar for it. And then I was like, "Oh, do you think you could help me out with mine?" He was like, "Of course." So it was cool. Really, I don't know how to play guitar. I wish I did. I hope I do soon. But it was very easygoing experience, and he's so talented. So
Nice. And no, that's something I wanted to ask you about too, because I think sometimes maybe this isn't what it is, but like I think I've seen you screenshot like you have like a Twitter like group message that has a lot of people in it. It's like a lot of friends and fans and
The on the
collaborators.
chat. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, how many people are in there and what happens in there? Give
Oh,
us
geez.
a peek behind the curtain.
Um, I put a tweet out and I was like, hey, like, if anybody makes music or wants to be in a huge group chat with a bunch of internet people, come through, like the tweet, I'll add you. And we hit the cap in like 30 minutes. I think it's at like 80 people or something
Oh,
like that. Cause Twitter, it's weird. Twitter only lets you have 50. And then I was able to tweet deck and add more people.
okay.
But it's just like a bunch of artists. It really, we have some big ones, we have some really small ones, and like it's a good energy because they're like giving advice and they're like, oh, like I loved your new promo, I loved yours too, stuff like that. Which you don't get a lot. It's very difficult to promote yourself, honestly. Like it's it's almost impossible on the internet. So having friends who will share your stuff is nice, but it goes from like just like posting about whatever, like memes, to like serious music talk. Like, what are
Yep.
we all gonna do? So
No, it's cool. And yeah, because it's funny, like I well, and they are kind of making a resurgence, but I remember the Facebook group was fairly important in some like indie and punk like music scenes like in the early tens. And yeah, it's making a bit of a comeback now, I think, just because Facebook is like pushing that through its algorithm. I guess it
oh
thinks
wow,
like people will engage with it better. I started a Shuttlecock one, and people
yeah.
like seem to see my posts more now that I post in that.
Oh, that's interesting.
So but I think that it is filling a void, like the prominence of like these group chats and like stuff like Slack and Discord, like because like when everybody got on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it kind of like before that everybody was on message boards and chat rooms and stuff, and it kind of like
Exactly.
wiped out those little niche communities that went along with those things. So now like yeah, group chats and Discords and Slacks are like making kind of a, and maybe Facebook groups, who's to say,
Oh
are
yeah.
kind of like making like bringing that style of like internet community back. Like, and I'm pretty sure that like within like hyperpop and like emo rap and like certain like internet subgenres, there are a lot of very popular Discord servers.
Oh
Are
yeah.
you part of any of those? Like, do you like collaborate and talk to people on any like music centric Discords or anything?
A lot of it is just like what opened my eyes was like a lot of artists have writing camps
Mm,
through their Discord,
mm,
which is like insane. Like
yeah,
they'll get all the artists in one Discord and they're like, I'm making this album. This is this album's Discord. So it's really cool to do it that way. A lot of the shows I play, they have Discord servers. I do have like a Riley the Musician Discord server as well. There's some cool people in there. Um, it's really just like I feel so old. Does that make sense when I go on Discord? Because like I was using Skype
yeah,
growing up and like that was like the coolest thing to me. And now all these kids are on Discord and like they know all this like Discord culture and like memes and things like that. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so behind. I feel so old.
yeah,
But you get it's really nice to have servers and chat rooms and everything so organized for music because you can be like, oh, the demo ideas go in here. And then like when we're finished with the song, it goes here.
yeah,
So there is a huge plus to it. If we had that 10 years ago, it would have been amazing. But now that we have it now, I mean, a sentiment I've always shared is that I feel like real live studio sessions are just like slowly evaporating. All of it's online, just over Zoom like this, or just like sending each other things back and forth. That's how
mm,
I do most of my work with like, placements and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, and it's interesting because it's like I don't need to move to LA to like be, successful anymore. I can just be in Kansas City or wherever I am, and like
yeah,
the internet, does its thing. So
yeah. No, and but so that brings me back to the location thing though, because on uh on the album, in that conversation with your friend on that interlude, you mentioned like, oh, maybe I'll be in LA in 5 years, right?
Yeah. At
Um,
the time, that was the sentiment.
yeah,
But like the more I did stuff and the more I worked in the industry, I was like, well, I don't really have to be anymore.
yeah,
You know, I can be somewhere where rent is like affordable and I'm happy and like doing things I want to do. Because to me, it's like, I'm not the type of person where I just want to move to a huge city and like play shows every single night. Even though it sounds like a fun time, I get so tired.
yeah,
Like I am such a recluse when it comes to that. I just want to make art in a room away from people and then come back. You know, I think everybody wants to do that,
yeah.
but I think there's a good balance you can figure out there.
Mm.
So
No, that's
that's where
cool.
I'm at.
Yeah, no, and you even like, I think in the maybe this is a thought you've moved on from as well, but I think in the ringtone interview, you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'll move to Montana, and like once I have the resources and fly people in for like collaborations and stuff. So
Oh
you
yeah.
still, is that
Um,
still on the table?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's still, even though I love the internet and doing sessions over the internet, there's still a sentiment to like seeing people in person and getting
Yeah,
that feeling. And especially like who's gonna fly you to Montana to like make music? You know, I think that'd be so cool.
yeah.
Like you get to be in front of the mountain range. So I don't know. I think I definitely want to be there someday. But for me, it's always like I'm such a dreamer. I fall in love with the place I don't really know super well, and then I go and I'm like, this is okay. Like LA, I was like, I love LA, and then I went to LA for like 6 times, and I was like, I don't really like LA anymore. But when I go to Montana, it's like being home. You
Yeah.
know, because I'm not going to like New York or LA. It's like this is just like my small town here. I can function and do my thing. So
Have the New York and LA visits been all like label stuff or collaborations or?
a lot of just mixed stuff. I'm going to New York this upcoming weekend, which will be crazy because I've actually never been to New York until now.
Okay.
I've been to Chicago, I've been to a lot of major cities, but this will be my first time there. And everybody's like, "You're gonna love New York," and so I'm excited. But yeah, you know, I wanted to move to LA for a bit, so I went out there for like a month or a couple weeks at a
Mm.
time just to like get a feeling of where I wanted to live. And then I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, you figured out you'd be wiped out the whole time.
Yeah, it's just like so fast paced.
Yeah.
I want to be able to like drive. You know, in LA, you just can't just go out and go. I mean, you can, it just takes so long.
Yeah.
So,
No, and it's kind of fucked up because, like there is the environmental impact of owning and driving a car, specifically like
yeah.
I'm driving like a small SUV, but it like there is like a very specific sense of freedom that I feel like it gives you. And like I'm sure you can probably like probably not in Los Angeles, but like maybe you can access that with a bike or something like more eco-friendly. But like I don't know, yeah, you look back at Americana, that's something you're interested in, and like the car, the drive-in, the
It's the
road trip is
aesthetic.
a very
Yeah.
like important thing in like American culture, especially like in the Midwest. So uh
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Riley lives to drive another day. Just kicking it in the
pretty
Midwest
much.
for a minute.
Yeah, no, pretty much. I totally agree. The environmental effect of it is scary and it sucks. I hope everybody's driving electric very soon. But
Mm.
I mean that takes, you know, takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, the freedom of being on the road, like that was a song Highway 65 was about that, just like being on the road and like getting out and stuff like that. And so yeah, I mean, you can't replicate that very easily with like a
yeah,
bike or something like that in LA. Like there's just something about open roads, driving middle of nowhere.
yeah. Um, and okay, I think probably final question here, very important.
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
I think I can't remember specifically where you said this, but you mentioned, well, you're on the Montana album cover, you are wearing the Andy Warhol wig that you got at the party store like
Yeah,
3 years ago now. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
just about.
And I think at some point like recently you said you needed to upgrade it. Is that still the plan? What's happening with wig? Are we ditching the wig? What's tell me about the wig.
It'll always be a part of like me somehow, and I think it'll always make an appearance somehow. I just wanted it to make a last appearance on Montana because at the beginning of the record, it's like who I was before, and by the end, it's a new person. But as far as like the wig goes, either grow out my hair naturally and do stuff that I want to do with it, or get a new wig. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like comfortable with like the way I present myself and the way I want to do things, it's like it was really just like a closeted way of like expressing myself before I could even like fully be open about something like that.
Yeah.
So it served its purpose, and it's always going to be like near and dear, you know, be when the back of music videos are shot somehow.
Yeah.
But I do want to take the next step, and so I'm working towards it. But real wigs are expensive, let me tell you.
Well, hopefully the Montana stream money will come in, and you will have some wig money to throw around, maybe, or
maybe
like
we'll see.
maybe
I might use it on
maybe you
something
get
more practical.
maybe you start a Discord room to discuss future hair and wig planning. You know, maybe
Quite possibly.
that goes to the writers' room.
Exactly. Start a Twitter thread on it too. Yeah, we'll see. I know whatever I do next it has to be flashy. So we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I look forward to enjoying Montana more, and I hope the people will also enjoy it more. And do you hope to tour before you put out another release? Because you said you're kind of taking like the one-off shows like as they come, but
yeah, I mean, I've had some like opportunities arise. I think it's just like I'm such a nervous person. It'll take a lot out of me to do it, but I'd love to do it. You know, I'd love to like visit places I've never been. You know, it'd be stupid to turn down a tour.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I will definitely be playing more shows before the next thing comes out. It's just a matter of like in what aspect. Will it be far out or will it be all in a row? We'll see.
Or, well, I look forward to seeing you live then.
Thank you.
Where can people listen to Montana, and where can they find you on social media and everything?
You can hear Montana on Apple Music, Spotify, with pretty much whatever you have. You just put in Riley the Musician, and then it'll pop up. I have the wig on, and it'll just say Montana on it. Yes. And then as far as social media, I'm at Riley the Musician on Instagram and at Riley the Muse on Twitter. So
yes, that's MUS. Yeah,
MUS, short for musician.
Couldn't fit the full name
yeah, Twitter has a little limit, so but you'll know it's me.
No, yeah, and people can follow at Shuttlecock Mag on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Shuttlecockmusic.com is the website. Subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Shuttlecockmag.bigcartel.com is the web store. I will have new t-shirts up soon and a new magazine within the next week or two. Check out all of the shows we have coming up on our concert calendar on the Facebook events tab. But yeah, thank you for being on the show. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Awesome. Well, we'll see everyone next time.